One of the makers I enjoy watching is Andy Phillips. He's a pretty big name in the maker space, but in case you haven't seen his stuff, I'll link him here. He has his wall of shame, projects that for one reason or another didn't make the cut. My wall of shame, if I had one, would only contain a few items. Not because I make less mistakes than Andy, but because of two reasons. One, I haven't been doing this long enough to make a big, shameful collection yet. And two, I have lower standards as to what I consider a failure. However, the last iteration of this project I consider a failure. I wouldn't dare sell it on Etsy, and I'm looking for a good opportunity to give it a Viking's funeral. And while screwing up something you put many hours into is heartbreaking, it of course is not a total loss. Lessons learned and all that. If you're curious, I will link that public failure here. All that being said, this is a second shot at that design, but using different techniques than before. My first attempt involved just a scroll saw and a bandsaw and a router table. This one swaps out the router table and the scroll saw in favor of shaping the box on the lathe and crafting the legs using segmented circle techniques instead. The trick is to make the legs that perfectly fit into the recesses around the edge of the box body. Lathes with the perfect symmetry take the guarantee of round shape out of the equation. An average mortal woodworker is not going to make a perfect circle on a bandsaw without a circle cutting jig. And even with that jig, you're not going to get a good finish without lots of sanding, whereupon you'll likely ruin the shape anyways. I'm glad to say that while there was some mishaps in this project, there always is, it was not a total disaster. And furthermore, I stumbled across a second box design almost by accident as I was making the first. This box is made from walnut and maple, which I feel like is the peanut butter and jelly of American woodworkers. So good, but even better together. I just got a newish jointer planer combo machine, and this is the first project I'm using it on. I purchased it from a fellow maker on Craigslist who's moving back up north. So far, I've been very impressed with this machine. As a plus, it was already dialed in, so no setup was required on my part, other than getting a different 220 plug. There's just something very satisfying about that noise of two perfectly cold planar pieces of wood clicking together. So the other day when I was ordering pizza, the girl at the counter asked me, "So you're a tool or something?" I guess she had never heard of the band Tool before. So this is my super high-tech jig. Basically a piece of HDPE, high-density polyurethane, held in place by my bench vise and a clamp. HPDE is smooth, providing very little friction for the stock, so it acts as a perfect sliding stop. I just wanted to show you this. I know Harbor Freight's controversial. I got this square from there. You had one job, Square. One job. Can you name who said that quote? Zebra wood is awesomely beautiful, but it tends to chip out more than most woods. So one or two swipes on the sandpaper cleans up all the fuzzies. Check out my video on how the other ring was made. Yeah, this is not going to work. The last piece of my collection will be a drum sander. Someday. This piece of plywood is going to be my waste block to hold the ring on the lathe. But first I'm going to try to flatten one side on the disc sander. I didn't have screws short enough, and I didn't want them protruding, because tiny bits of sharp metal spinning fast is rarely a good idea, unless of course we're talking about a table saw. Also, more importantly, sparks are pretty. Yeah, this method works a little bit better. Too bad the hot glue gunked up my sandpaper. So I used calipers to hone in on the inside diameter of my ring. But as I approach the size I'm looking for, I take less off in the lathe and check the fit frequently with the box itself. One of the things I didn't understand about square carbide tools when I first started using them is that the square cutter works best when you ride the bevel and only engage a small portion of the cutter at any given time, unless you're doing some very light smoothing cuts. I may throw this hot glue gun away. I know that makers love them, but trying to remove it is an exercise in not losing your temper. Plus, you'll see at the end it burns in my hand. The next video is coming soon. I actually got a new camera this week, taking a stab at recording in 4K for the second portion of this video. Thanks for watching.